Hello, hello. Welcome back to Short Film Saturday, everyone. Hope everybody's having a good Saturday. We have a great lineup for you guys today. We have two filmmakers from two very different parts of the world, but we're screening films that touch on the same topic, specifically mental health. And so we have a filmmaker from South Africa and a filmmaker from Iran, who I will introduce in a second. But for those of you who aren't familiar with Short Film Saturdays and who aren't familiar with Soleil, my name is 𝗦𝗪𝗥𝗞𝗛𝗛𝗿. I'm the founder and CEO of Soleil Space. And our mission is to achieve a more equitable and representative global media landscape through film, TV, and branded content. Our focus is on the diasporas of Asia, Africa, the Caribbean, Latin America, and the Middle East, with the goals of elevating untold stories from these cultures and forming closer bonds across borders. We really aim to provide creators that we work with opportunities to produce premium world-class content and specialize in long-form scripted and documentary TV branded and editorial digital content. So there's no better way, we think, to do that than showcasing short films. We have a podcast called Soleil Spotlight, which we have launched 2 seasons, and we showcase filmmakers and industry trailblazers from the global South diasporas in film and TV. And people tell us all the time, we hear them talk about all their early work, but where can we see it? And so that's how Short Film Saturdays was born. We felt like this was a great way for us to showcase work that people don't have access to, and to give filmmakers an opportunity to talk about that work. So we're really, really excited to introduce these 2 filmmakers today. And you know, we've featured 39 films so far from 30 filmmakers in 20 countries to date. So you guys are our 31st and 32nd filmmakers. Congrats, we crossed the 30 threshold. So we're really excited about that. All right, so I'm gonna introduce both filmmakers and have them introduce their films. First up is Tarania Naidoo. She grew up in Cape Town, South Africa, and at the age of 19, started her film school career. In her second year of film school, she directed a fashion film called What Would Sarah Do? And won an award for Best Emerging Filmmaker at the Bokeh Film Festival. She then created Knowing You, which won Film of the Year. In Tarania's final year of film school, she created a 30-minute short called 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗟𝗑𝗏, which also won Film of the Year. Tarania, welcome. Say hi to the audience and introduce your film.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. So yeah, Knowing You is a short film that I created in my second year of film school. And it's basically about a girl who goes to a psychiatric ward because she's mentally unstable. And yeah, we basically follow her story and find out why she is the way she is. And yeah, she also ends up like stalking a boy and falling in love with him and all these things. So that's kind of what it's about. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, and we're excited to see that one. And the second film is by Iranian filmmaker Saman Sorkhabi, who was born in Iran on November 7th, 1994, and is originally a Kurdish speaker. He graduated in film directing from the University of Tehran. You are our second filmmaker, Saman, that graduated from University of Tehran. So we have a nice pattern happening here, and has passed various filmmaking courses in several film schools. Saman started his artistic activities in 2017 with short film scripts, and then made his first short film called Green Prison in 2018, followed by 2 other short films called Look at Me in 2020, and in 2021, he created this short film Swelling, which you'll see today. He has appeared in many short films himself as a writer and assistant director, and has directed several promotional teasers and art clips. He also is currently working as a screenwriter for short and feature-length films. He intends to make 2 more short films in the new year. So welcome, Saman, and also everyone, welcome to Saman's interpreter who is with us today. and you will hear us kind of, speak a mix of English as well as native language. So welcome, Saman, and say hi to everyone and introduce your film.
Thank you, Mika. Hi to everyone. I'm Saman Sorkhabi from Iran. I'm Iranian filmmaker and screenwriter, and thank you having me.
Yes. So tell everyone just a little preview of your film before we get started. Swelling.
The film is the struggle in a family between one sister and one brother trying to take care of the mother or send her to nursing home.
Okay. And it's very heart-tugging, so you guys prepare to feel some things. All right, so we're going to start the screening of Swelling first, followed by Knowing You, and afterwards we'll be having Q&A with both filmmakers, so stay tuned for that as well. It's going to be a really great conversation. Thanks everyone, enjoy the show. All right, so we're back for the Q&A, folks, and that was lit. The films, well, of course, we knew that we love the films, which is why we put them forward for you guys every Saturday, but it's always great to see such a lively response and positive reaction to these films, and today was definitely no exception. You guys really brought the excitement all the way through, so we're really excited to get into the Q&A. For those of you who are just joining us, right, you just saw two films, two short films from Tarania Naidoo from Cape Town, South Africa, and Saman Sorkhabi from Iran. And we're gonna start with Saman's film because that's the one that we screened first. So we'll go in order of those that we screened. And the name of that film is Swelling. So, Saman, you have a lot to explain with this in a good way. And there were a lot of comments coming through. So tell us, was there any real life inspiration behind this heart-wrenching family drama?
The idea for my story goes back a long time ago when I was living with my old grandmother who was suffering from severe diabetes, and I had to take care of her day by day. As her illness progressed, things got hard and harder so much that I had to be her nurse and grandson myself, partly because both the nursing costs were high and I wasn't comfortable with her being in the hands of strangers.
Okay.
At first, it was very difficult for me to take care of my grandmother because I was a young boy who was very inexperienced in life and had to face a difficult task. In fact, at the time, I had gone to stay with my grandma for just a few days, and that few days actually took me about 3 years.
Oh.
We had lots of bittersweet moments together, and I know she was calm when she passed away.
Wow, that is really, really amazing.
Yeah, so that's how I wrote a story that is a reflection of those days. Of course, I had to dramatize it, and one day I want to adapt the events based on those memories and preserve it for the right occasion. Because it's a highly dramatic story full of strange events.
Right. Yeah. And I could tell that you're still very emotional about that. But what I want to commend you on is that came across really, really powerfully in the film. So tell us a little bit about the title choice of Swelling. How does that translate in Persian? And, is there some bigger meaning to it in that cultural context?
Swelling in Farsi, its
Sorry,
meaning,
Farsi. I should have said Farsi.
yeah, Persian or Farsi. برآمدگی.
Paramadiki.
Yeah.
Okay.
We say برآمدگی in Farsi. In the general scenes of the film, it can be the fake bulge worn by Tahir's belly show that they are repeatedly playing a role for their mother and nothing is similar. In fact, Tahir chooses her own path in life by removing the fake swollen belly. And for Alireza, the swelling is an emotional one. It must either be allowed to heal, and okay, it must either be allowed to heal, and this owner must take action against it. He is under immense pressure from the members of his family to let go. So Tahir's swelling is a physical, but for Alireza isn't internal conflict.
Okay, got it. All right, and that makes sense because that moment when we saw the belly basically removed was a really big plot twist, and we really kind of I think everybody had the same reaction. So going back to where we started with, the whole notion of taking an elderly parent or grandparent to a nursing home, even from my culture, that's something that's looked upon differently depending on where you come from. How are these care facilities viewed in Iran? And is it common for families to place older relatives there?
Your question. In fact, Alireza is faced with a great dilemma in his life, one between tragic emotions, which he has to choose between his life or her mother's life. In my opinion, Alireza's choice is a choice between the two. It doesn't matter what awaits him. We will realize in the end that he still loves his mother and reluctant to live. As for second part of your question, I have to say that unfortunately, sending parents to a nursing home is becoming extremely common in the last few years. Children consider parents' presence to be a nuisance for their lifestyle, and they want to get rid of the heavy burden old parents cause.
Right.
I think it's a grave responsibility to take care of the hands that fit and raised us when we were kids. Yeah.
It's definitely a dynamic that I think as you get older, and your parents get older, you have to grapple with. It's like, the life that I want for myself and their life at this stage and taking care of them. So I could definitely identify with that. And I think, in the comments, we could see that a lot of people identified with that. So let's talk about the film and the acting, because the acting was really, really strong. And there was a lot of dialogue. And even though, as a native English speaker, I didn't understand the Farsi, but the acting really brought everything to life as though it was English speakers. It didn't matter. So could you tell us about your process, your casting process, and how you were able to get that out of the actors?
Yes. You know, in my selection, I tried to use actors who already had experience in acting in various films. And because the script was dialogue centered, the actors had to fill the words, and sometimes they picked in emotions and calmed down again. I tried more group rehearsals. I didn't want them to say exactly the dialogues I wrote in the script. I wanted them to use their own creativity as well. But we couldn't have a lot of rehearsals because the budget was so tight, and it didn't allow us to do rehearsals more.
Ah, okay.
There wasn't much room for error.
Right. So because of the budget, you can do, a lot of
Yeah,
different takes, right?
exactly.
Right. That makes
And
sense.
me and my team did our best to finish the filming in just 2 days, and with limited budget and time. I thanked them so much for their sacrifice.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And it did not look like a low budget film. We could go on and on with questions on this film and compliments because it did not look like a low budget film. The cinematography was good. The production quality was really strong. We won't bore the non-film people with those details, but just so you guys know, like those matter as well. And it did not look low budget at all. So congratulations on that. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. And so now we switch to Tarania, and we have a lot to talk about here as well. So the film is Knowing You, and we're really curious about this title. Tell us, what made you choose Knowing You? It's not very on the nose. So what does it mean? What's the significance of that?
So the significance is that Mimi basically doesn't really know this guy, and in the film he tells her, he's like, oh, do I know you from somewhere? And she's all like, oh, no, I don't know you, and all that stuff. So yeah, and it's also that was kind of like one of the reasons, and then also because we're getting to know Mimi and why she's like so angry and aggressive and all that. So yeah, it's all about like getting to know someone, like the deeper person. But yeah, that's pretty much the vibe.
Okay. That makes sense. And let's talk about the clinic then, the setting of this and kind of where everything really centers. So the place Mimi is sent to is referred to as the clinic, and it's an inpatient mental health facility. So how are places like this and the patients that go to them viewed in South Africa, the whole notion of mental health and being committed to a facility, and are there taboos around that? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, I definitely think there are taboos around mental health. I mean, I've struggled with mental health myself, and people look at you differently, and they also don't really understand why you are the way you are. But there are certain reasons why certain people act in certain ways, I guess. So I kind of wanted to touch on that, and it's definitely like it is a taboo thing in South Africa, and I think the whole world. But I think also like with the youth, we're starting to talk about these things more, and we're starting to be more open about it. So that's also cool. So yeah, and also I did go to a clinic before, so the experiences that I had there is what inspired me to write about Mimi in this like setting. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So this is really personal. And that was going to be my next question, actually, how you tackled writing a character going through a system like this, because it felt like this had to come from personal experience, all the different nuances of it. So was it, I guess, now that you reveal that, was it hard to write for you? or did it just kind of flow from your own story?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a little bit hard. Sorry for the noise in the background. I'm gonna say it. So I just wanted to say that first. And also, yeah, it was a little bit hard because I felt like I was being quite vulnerable and I was scared about how I would get perceived. But yeah, basically it did flow though. I was like, okay, cool, let me just write this thing. And yeah, so not everything is about my life. Like I'm not adopted and I didn't like stalk a guy, but I just added some spice
No, you
to
sure?
the film. I did not stalk a man, but so yeah, definitely just added some spice to the story. And yeah, but it's based on like some of my experiences. Yeah.
Okay. And the tape recorder, I think, was kind of cool as a fun way to bring narration into the story. So why did you choose that tactic, and how do you feel it aided the storytelling for you?
All right. So yeah, I didn't really want to explain a lot of like her inner dialogue through like, you know, the actual dialogue with other people, because what she was going through was quite personal. So I wanted to find a way to show the audience this in a personal way. So her little tape recorder is like a diary. And I also thought it was cool because it was like a prop as well. And it added to the whole like vibe of yeah, just watching. I don't know, just yeah. I don't know if that answers it.
Yes, it does. Yeah, and it makes sense. It makes sense, and I think it was very, very effective actually. And it kind of gave more insight into her personality. You know, like these are the inner thoughts, and then you see her act it out. So let's switch a little bit to the boy that she was watching at night. Was this somewhat a figment of her imagination, what was playing out at night? Because then later on she talked about, you know, she kind of had her outburst in the group session, and she talked about things that seemed to happen when she was watching that boy, but she didn't know the boy. So explain the kind of mix of imagination or memory versus like whether she was connected to him somehow in the past. Help us understand that.
Yeah, I think a lot of her watching him was very like fantasy like she was trying to make up a story to like feed herself in a way because she was so like bored and lonely. So definitely it wasn't entirely real. She didn't know his name. She gave him a fake name. She didn't really know exactly what was going on. And yeah, so I think she was just attached to this like idea of someone. And yeah, I think that's pretty much what is happening there.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I have questions for both of you, but one last quick question for Tarania. Race is a factor that comes up in different ways in the film. First with the parents and then with the psychiatrist. And then I think, well, at least maybe that was my reading into it, subtly with the nurse, because the nurse was Black and she really opened up to the nurse. What did you want audiences to take away, particularly around the topic of race, but contextualize it given the complex dynamics and history of race in South Africa?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think identity is a big thing in South Africa, and yeah, I think it's a really touchy subject here because we have a history of apartheid, and so basically, like the whole structure is quite intense, and you know, having a Black girl, she would be identified as colored in South Africa,
right?
And having her have like a white psychiatrist, for example, shows how like she doesn't like relate to this person because he's like asking her like about her feelings and stuff, but he has no idea, and he wouldn't be able to like help her really because, you know, he comes from that background of being a privileged white man who would never be able to understand her. So yeah, and also with her parents and stuff, it's like, you know, she has this like white mom and a colored father, and she's also adopted, so it's like she has these identity struggles, which also actually adds to why she's so like lost and trying to like find herself basically. So yeah, it's also a big thing that we all kind of struggle with in this world, but also in this country specifically, given like our history and just, yeah, so definitely also in the future I really want to tackle those topics as well, and yeah, shed light on, you know, what is actually happening here. So yeah.
And it's really cool that like you were able to bring that intersection between racial dynamics and the mental health system. And I think that's universal, right? Like, you know, who controls the system? Who are the people that are put in a position that they're supposed to help, but if culturally they can't relate, you know, or if they can't understand that oppressive experience of the other, right? Like, how does that affect the ability to treat people, right? So I see that they're trying to get you on set. Okay, well, right now I'll invite the audience to send in their questions. You could start sending in your questions. We saw you guys like having a lot to say during the film, so I'm very curious and excited to see what questions come from the audience. But in the meantime, we have questions for both of you that I'll ask now while we get the audience questions. So who are your favorite filmmakers from each of your countries, Iran and South Africa, and how do they inspire your work? I'll start with Saman.
Thank you so much. Could you repeat your question again?
Yes. Who are your favorite filmmakers from Iran, and how did that person inspire your work?
In Iran, my favorite directors, 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗟𝗏 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗟𝗏, Asghar Farhadi, and Sohrab Sales, and Khosrow Sinai, and one more, Kamran Shirdel.
Wow, those are good. Those are a lot of names that we could make note of and discover.
And 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗧𝗪𝗏.
Oh wow, great, awesome. Yeah. And how do they inspire your work? How did they inspire your work?
I like the world they create, the acting, the story, the realism, the philosophy behind this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Tarania, what about you from the South African perspective?
I would probably say 𝗦𝗔𝗠𗘡 who directed 𝗦𝗢𝗨𝗧𝗛, which is a really incredible film, and also 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗨𝗧𝗛. She was one of the first women of color directors in South Africa to create a feature film. Sorry about that. I don't know why that just opened. And basically, she's really incredible, and she's actually also my directing lecturer. And she mentored me and still mentors me to this day. So yeah.
Oh, very good. Very awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing that I think everybody is curious to know is what's next for each of you. You know, what projects are you working on? I would even include in that, are there plans to make either of these films into feature films or series? Tell us what's coming next. Tarania, you want to start?
Yeah. Yeah, I think definitely I want to make something and write something soon. I have like some concepts in my head, and I will definitely write it soon. I think I really want to make a feature film. But yeah, who knows? I don't know.
Is that feature going to be an adaptation of Knowing You, or you're thinking of something very different?
I think something completely different because my life, or most of the things I write is based on my experiences. And during the time, like from knowing you to now, I've experienced a lot of different things. So I definitely have different things to say.
And Saman, what about you? What is coming next for you? What are you going to be working on next? Because everybody loved this film today, so we're curious to know.
Actually, I kind of developed my grandma's story, and I'm writing a future script right now about an experienced young boy who pay a short visit to his sick grandma, but is forced to stay with her when the nurse is on the leave. Their circumstances measures him into a more responsible man. I hope I can find the producer for this heartwarming
you're looking
story
for a
and
producer. Okay.
And direct my future debut, which would carry the universal theme of a young boy's inner growth.
Yes. Okay, well, that will be really exciting to see. And it's good to know that you're looking for a producer for that. So we could talk about that. All right, everyone. So in the meantime, looking at the audience question, we have a lot. Okay, guys, I can't read all of these, but I'll do my best, okay? We have like a ton of comments here and questions. All right, the first one, what was the hardest, I think was really interesting, what's the hardest and easiest part, but I would say focus on the hardest part, the challenges that you had to overcome when trying to tell these stories. We could start with Tarania. What were the biggest challenges that you had in making Knowing You?
I think the biggest challenge, or just like in terms of writing it or creating
anything, any challenge,
anything. I think I can't really think of. From my memory, it feels like it flowed really well, and it just like happened. And like I had such an amazing team. Aristide might be on. He produced this, and he was an amazing producer. I had an amazing cinematographer, amazing team, art director, 𝗕𝗓, she's probably on here as well. So yeah, like I had an incredible team, incredible actors. The script was super nice as well. So I mean, like it flowed, and it was. I think the only challenge might have been like funding. Getting funding to create this project. But yeah, that also sorted itself out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Saman, what about you? What was the hardest part? What was the most difficult part of making Swelling?
Can I help? Interpreter to come assist me.
Yes, definitely. Hi, Ali.
Hi, everyone. Hi, how are you? Mr. Sorkhabi, biggest challenge was the funding. I think for most young filmmakers, the independent ones, the funding is so difficult. And he went through so much difficulty gathering the funds for it. He has to sell his car and get lots of loans to make this movie.
Oh, wow. You sold your car.
Yeah.
You need to make a movie about making the movie, Saman.
Yes. Yeah, I suggest that someday he will make that movie too. All the struggles of a young filmmaker, gathering money for his film. I think it's so inspiring for all those who all those people who don't have a story but lots of money and they don't know what to say. I think some people, especially in third world countries, they've got so much to say, but they've got so little money to project their feelings and their ideas into the biggest screen.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And that's one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing, you know, because a lot of the money tends to go to the Western filmmakers, and especially the white Western filmmakers, right? And you see the same stories over and over again coming out of the West. It's like, after a while, we've seen that before, you know? So I'm really, really glad that you said that. I'll take one more audience question just because of time. Okay, so 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗧𝗑 asks, 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗧𝗛, if you could go back and recreate your film, what would you have done differently? I'll start with Saman this time. So I'll repeat it. If you can go back and recreate the film, what would you do differently? Would you do anything differently?
He says that he loves the world of his film, the atmosphere. It's so personal that he likes it, but he prefers to recruit a little more experienced actress for the grandmother role, someone who provoke more sympathy and be more lovely than the character. But obviously, the film is a projection of most of the things that he wanted.
Okay, great. What about you, Tarania?
I think I'll definitely spend more time with the actors and yeah, just like have more like pre-production time where we could really get into the acting and stuff like that. So, and also, yeah, I think that's definitely what I would work on.
Okay. And I just want to make sure that I did call out 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗧𝗑, so I don't want to disappoint them by not asking this question. So this will be the last question. There's so many of them, which is a great thing. You guys really got the audience going with both your films. All right. What do you hope your audience will walk away with after viewing your film? What do you want them to be left with? Tarania, you go first.
I guess just to feel something, just feel like, you know, something. I hope someone, like when people watch it, they feel like some kind of relatability and they feel like seen and heard, and yeah, that kind of vibe.
Okay. What about you, Saman?
He likes the audience to ask themselves the question: what would you do if you were in Alireza's shoes? What would you do if you were in Tahir's shoes? What would be your decision? He likes them to think about that and leave the theater with that lingering question about what would you do if you were in those characters' shoes?
I think you do a good job of leaving that question in people's minds, especially as you have two characters who make opposite choices, right? In terms of how they want to deal with the situation, and one forces the other into making that decision, but there's no easy answer for it, which I think is what this film really brought about so beautifully. So I want to congratulate you guys both on, you know, making these films about very difficult and complex topics in such a very short space of time. and with very limited resources. So congrats for that. And now we'll wrap, but I'll give you guys an opportunity for each of you to tell the audience where they could find you, whether it's your socials or your website or anything like that before we close. So Tarania, you could go first.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Instagram at Tarania Naidoo. That's pretty much the social media that I have.
Saman?
And you could find me on Instagram, Saman Sorkhabi, Sorkhabi.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to like just shout out Saman, guys, because he started out with a translator, Ali, who's right next to him. And then he said, no, I want to do this in English. And you did so well. So congrats. You should do more of your interviews in English because your English is pretty good and it flowed really well. So thanks for doing that and good job. Thank you both, Saman and Tarania, for these awesome films. And thank you guys in the audience for such a lively, engaged conversation. We really appreciate you guys staying the whole way and listening to the Q&A with these two talented filmmakers. And so next Short Film Saturday is on May 7th. So we're taking a little break next weekend. So we won't have one next weekend, but the following weekend, we have a new partnership, Third Horizon Film Festival, which is our partner on the Caribbean Films vertical. But our new editorial partner is Caribbean Beat magazine, which is one of the most popular magazines covering culture and entertainment in the Caribbean region. So we're really excited about that. And you'll see a lot of stuff on our socials coming out about that for May 7th. And the filmmakers that are featured there are Mandy Marcus and 𝗦𝗪𝗘𝗧𝗏, a Trinidadian filmmaker and a Guyanese filmmaker. So we're really excited about that, and tune in because it's gonna be some really strong films. So like and subscribe, follow us on Soleil.space, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and stay tuned on our socials for more Short Film Saturdays. If you're a filmmaker who wants to submit your film, you can go to our Film Freeway account, which you'll see the link underneath the description of this video. Go to our Film Freeway and submit, and we'll be happy to take a look at your films for future Short Film Saturdays. So thank you guys so much. Thank you, Tarania. Thank you, Saman.
Thank you too.
Thank you guys. Thanks so much for having me.